Hello and welcome to Indiepocalypse Radio, your number one home for Indiepocalypse Radio, the only place to get it besides also archived on the internet. I am your host, the editor-in-chief of Indiepocalypse, the number... I keep going back to number one. No, it's not I mean, at this point, it's kind of like the also ran of the zine business. First in line, last in thought, as they call Indiepocalypse. We're here with a guest, a returning guest, if is it's 14? Oh, I was gonna say 17, but I was wrong. It's 14. Who you may remember from issue 14 of Indiepocalypse, the Danger Zone friends. It is Alexandra Higgins. Alexandra, how are you doing today? Hello.
Doing, oh, doing great. How are you?
I'm doing good. I'm remembering to do things where I say it's live, as is customary, of like flying headfirst into this whole thing and forgetting to do other things. But I am done. Yes. Do I want? Yes. It's. I'm hoping that if I keep sending stuff to everyone enough, it'll remove the people I don't want from the Discord server.
Uh,
It'll annoy enough people that they'll just start leaving, which is really, when it says 350 plus, that's too many people in a Discord server.
I see.
My ideal server has 3 people, and they're all my friends. How many Discord servers are you in, Alex? Would you say?
Uh, I try to limit it onto technically 12. I think half of them are defunct.
Okay. How many of them are permanently muted?
Uh, most most of almost all of them. I feel like I tend to mute almost everything by default, just because I just really don't like the notifications. Really really don't need that in my life.
Yeah, yes, I've had like it open at first, and then I was like, oh wait a minute, there's like approximately like a million things here, and there's a bunch of little white dots, and I don't want to see what those white dots are. I just, I just don't care, as it turned out. But you know,
Yeah.
I respect the people who have a different approach to life than I do.
Uh,
I
uh,
guess.
yeah. But I think it's also good to also respect our own superior perspective.
Yes, yes. As someone who is like, it's good that everyone is so online all the time, but I have an alternative to that. It's called having friends in real life, which seems I haven't found a polite way to say that.
They should compliment each other, of course.
Yeah,
But yeah.
it's like that's. I mean, I feel like it's also been like a detriment to from like the business standpoint, of the indie apocalypse business. Is that I'm like I don't want to get into everyone's business all the time. It seems annoying to like socialize with tens of hundreds of people so that they'll like my thing.
Sure. Well, it's the kind of thing where if they're in the server to begin with, then it's hopefully because they already like the thing, because of their
Uh,
actual interactions with the magazine prior.
no, I'm gonna switch it backwards because no one can pronounce. So many people pronounce it Zion. I'm just gonna switch over to Mag
Uh,
as
ah.
as a shortening. It feels also. I think Mag feels more gamer.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
There was massive action game.
There's MagFest, of course. There's that association.
Yep. There's magazines that come out of guns.
Oh yeah.
I feel like there's a
And if you
decent
spell it backwards, it's like GAM. So it's
close to
pretty
gamer.
close. Uh,
Also, gamers love gams,
yeah.
as evidenced by they get upset whenever they get covered up. But yeah, okay. Did you ever play Mag? Let's get into serious
I
topics.
I haven't. I
Well, you can't
It
anymore.
sounds familiar. Okay.
It was like what was it? It was like 120 versus 120, or was it like 128 versus 128, like
Oh.
first person shooter thing? That was the whole idea,
Huh.
and it
I
would.
probably heard. Oh no, this is actually like a commercial game. I remember when, I guess like a decade ago or whenever, when, you know, people started, just like had like a real simple like tech demo of like here's like big like 128 person online war. That's just real simple, just like move and shoot and everybody's blobs and whatever.
Yeah,
And I didn't realize that somebody actually tried to do that, but as an actual game.
it received the Guinness Award for most players in a console FPS.
Okay. Oh God.
It was like I think it must have been free to play because I feel like in good conscience I could not have paid for this game.
Uh,
It's like in my mind, I don't imagine having paid for it. Maybe there was like a demo or a beta or something that I played,
mhm.
but it was. I mean, it's interesting. I think it would break out in this. Anyway, we're not gonna. This isn't a mag retrospective where we talk about how it broken into like different squads, so you could like I don't know, like Dynasty Warriors. Was it like Dynasty Warriors? Who knows? What if
Like
we
not actually 128 versus 128
No, there
people.
was, but like the idea of like there's a
It's
massive
like we're
arena,
gonna.
but like
Uh,
this is my section of the arena,
sure.
so it's kind of like
Right.
you're playing four little games instead of one big game.
Right.
Can you do competitive Dynasty Warriors? Is that an option in the game? I'm now I'm thinking. Now I'm blanking.
Hmm.
And what is that? Is it just you murder all your different dudes until nobody's left but you and your opponent?
It's like faster than the other person.
Can you Dynasty? I mean, Dynasty. Important research here.
Okay.
Alex, what's your experience with the greater Muso universe?
I played it once in middle school. That's about it. I had a friend who had it, and uh, but I mostly just watched. So yeah, I'm aware it's a thing. Um,
Okay, here we go. Thank you, Reddit. Is there a mode basically a versus mode? Some people believe that they did. Thank you, Reddit. That's as far as I'm going. Is the first comment and going, yeah. Someone going, I think so, and I'm going, sounds right.
okay.
No Warriors derivatives, no Zelda Warriors or
No,
One Piece
yeah,
Warriors.
they made that. Goodness.
I think they made like four of them.
Yeah, no, not yet.
I mean, I guess that's the secret to. Alex, what is your go-to? Do you have like a go-to like? I don't know what you call those video games. Like, you just know that you're not getting anything meaningful out of it, but it makes
Hmm.
you feel good.
Uh, to feel good. Like a comfort food game, kind
Yeah,
of.
like it's like a video game potato chip. It's like it's not the best taste and like it's not very nourishing for my soul, but I put a lot of it in me and it makes you feel good when I do that.
I mean, I think there's a time in my life where I had more of that, I think, especially before grad school, but also just
Right.
before adulthood in general. Yeah, there used to be a lot of Halo and TF2 in my life and all that, but yeah, now it's just I don't have. I think I'm at a stage in my life where I'm just like not as interested. I mean, I think it's like I guess like going back to the start of our conversation. I think that I'm at a stage in my life where more of my social life is happening offline than online, which is
Yeah.
a lovely trend, and that means more tabletop games and like when you're already doing that, it kind of scratches that multiplayer itch, and it's always better with people you know than with strangers online who are humping your face, when they kill
Yeah.
you. And
Have a
yeah,
friend do that.
right, yeah, it's a lot better that way.
You get where it's coming from. You understand the intent, ideally.
Sure, right,
You know,
yeah,
there isn't so much of the. I think the benefit is there's so much. I think maybe this is endemic on Twitter, especially of that kind of cover all my bases with every statement I make kind of conversational style,
right, yeah,
and also just like sometimes people like um, the aversion to disagreeing with somebody or
right.
or seeing a disagreement as a personal affront, where it's like sometimes people just disagree on things
Mhm.
or like have a different take on something, and it's like you can't
Yeah,
approach everyone online like you do your friends.
no, and it's just not worth the time. And yeah, it's just
TF2, what a world. Now I'm thinking of that. I think that's my top played. If you discount like technically me having like Ace Sprite or RPG Maker open for a long time.
right, yeah. I think, I mean, yeah, I could pull up my Steam stats and see after, I guess like 14 or 15 years of having the Steam account, and I guess I'll be embarrassed by seeing what it actually
Yeah,
is.
so we're gonna open up our new segment of Indiepocalypse Radio. This is called Loosening the Valve. It's where we open our Steam accounts and we see what our most recent our longest plays are. Yeah, I need a if I had a soundboard, I, I would be mildly tolerable because I would need a soundboard and also like a a guaranteed second, like a reliable second, you know?
Mhm.
Because I feel like I've thought about like I need to have someone who's just like my number two, but which more like my double number one because we're both number ones. Just like a reliable bounding board. That way I can just like I can do weird stuff and kind of get sidetracked and do stream graphics and mess around with things because I can
Mhm.
do that when I'm talking to people I'm more familiar with sometimes, but also it's like if I'm talking to someone new, I have to like stay really focused on like talking to them and like
I see. Yeah, yeah.
because I need to like know what they're like how do they talk, what are they interested in, how can I talk to them and actively interview them and speak with them, where it's like you don't need to think about when you're talking to someone you can
Right.
you can do like a million different things. Oh, Tales of Arise.
Okay,
I
let's see, sort of by.
I didn't play that. Someone else
Okay.
had played it, but
Okay, okay, I have my list up.
I do, where is it? I don't remember where it is.
Okay, yeah, it's been forever. But if you go to your profile on
I
Steam and
found
then
it.
click
Yes.
on Game Zoned, yeah, yeah, yeah.
Wait, what is
And it's
what
always
is
the right
perfect? What
time.
is perfect games? Oh, okay.
What? Oh, what, achievement wise?
Yeah, I guess that's what it means.
Oh, yeah, yeah. Oh, that can be the second part of the segment.
Okay, so let's.
Okay.
What is excluding tools like Ace Sprite and RPG
Uh,
Maker and all stuff like that? Because I mean,
all right.
I will tell you for certain, I do not have 1,500 hours in Ace Sprite. It's just I never close it.
Right, yeah, yeah. I feel like, I mean, same thing with, yeah, RPG Maker. But yeah, so okay, so the first two are basically tools for me, and then after that, much to my surprise, the 116 hours is Mass Effect 2.
Wow,
Um,
what a baby number of hours. I have
I feel like
204.
these numbers don't seem right. Like
Yeah,
there's no way I only have 93 hours on Team Fortress 2. Like when I was a teenager, it had to have been more than that. Are
yeah.
they like forgetting it?
There's
I don't know.
I've
Well, we'll just take the data as given.
yeah. For the
But
record, I was right. My top one is Team Fortress 2 with 204 hours.
okay. got it. That's twice as much TF2 as I have. So, yeah, it looks like my top three is Mass Effect 2, which I guess makes sense because I used to have Mass Effect 1 on disc, and then Mass Effect 3 wasn't on Steam for a while.
Yeah.
So, uh, you know, and then after that, I have the Master Chief Collection, the Sketch and Nostalgic Halo Itch, and then after that, then I have Final Fantasy 8. Um,
Okay. My second one is the now defunct Marvel Heroes, which was me being like, it's kind of like Diablo. Me trying my endless search to just, hey, what if I could find Diablo 2 again?
mhm.
And the answer was I never found it again.
uh,
I never rekindled that flame.
mhm.
Uh, Also, I have 113 hours in stacking, which seems incorrect.
Wait, what's stacking?
Stacking is one of those, you know, that period when Double Fine was doing like shoulder projects, like costume quests and everything. Stacking was the
Yeah.
Matryoshka doll one. I believe that's the Matryoshka doll puzzle game.
I'm not familiar with that one in particular, but okay.
Yes, yeah, it would be like
Got it.
you would like pop
But it's
inside different people.
yeah. Oh, huh.
I think the stacking lead follows me on Twitter. I
Uh,
think that's part
oh,
of
that's
why
cool.
I was thinking of stacking again recently. Um,
Mhm.
so how many perfect games do you have?
All right, so it looks like I have four. Um, okay. So I have Always Sometimes Monsters.
Okay.
Never did play the sequel to that. Um,
I think I have a
I don't know
card.
if you're
I
familiar
think
with
I have
that
a
one.
card in my desk right next to me, a redemption code that the guy gave me at PAX
Uh,
when I was like going around and showing people, you know, the final pre-pandemic PAX where I was like, "Hey, everyone, this is what Indiepocalypse is."
mhm.
All
Yeah,
right.
I remember liking that one. I don't know if it would hold up to my taste today, but I remember being kind of impressed with just like how open it was for like a linear, like
Yeah. I th-
adventure story
from my from
slash life
my
sim.
from my impression, it feels like it could definitely be like very good or far too edgelord,
Sure. Yeah,
or
maybe I was at the I could have been at the right age at the time,
yeah,
or if I was like a late teen or early 20 something, then it's like, the edgelord stuff kind of goes over my head. I'm just like, oh no, this is just,
really deep.
uh,
There's yeah,
yeah, yeah.
there's a point like I think sometimes there's a point where it's like stuff goes like or like maybe it's a little too it's trying a bit too hard, but I don't know. I've never
Mhm.
played it, so I'm not sure.
Yeah,
I have a lot of games I haven't
mhm,
played.
of course, yeah.
What what else? I'm really
Let's
curious if we have overlaps.
okay, my other remaining Perfect 3 games have Quadrilateral Cowboy,
Okay,
which yeah, I
I
still heavily endorse. And
I
then I
think
have Tales from oh
I
sorry.
played 30 Flights of Loving. I think that's as
Mhm.
far as I got. And I'm glad I
Yeah.
enjoyed it. It's
Uh,
just I don't play a lot of games. But yes, keep going. Sorry.
right. Yeah, so there's that, and then just Tales from the Borderlands and Walking Dead Season 2, which I'm kind of surprised that I only have all the achievements for those and not the rest of the
Yeah.
Telltale games. Like, aren't they all just kind of
They
just, hey, did you beat the game? Here's all the achievements,
they must
kind of
not be
things, but
because
maybe
I feel like
not.
I've played a lot of them and I have zero Telltale games in here.
Ah, interesting. I'm gonna take a
Oh
look at
yes,
these.
if I think it is Lee Petty. Um, yeah, slowly working my tendrils through gaming
Ah,
space until I'm waiting for the point where I have money. People are like, yes, I loved Indie Apocalypse all along.
mhm.
Um, I'm a real gamer, so I have seven.
Yeah. I've downgraded to fake gamer over the
Sorry.
years. Yeah.
Yeah, we'll Alex, we'll do an investigative search on your APMs in a second.
Okay.
But for now,
Oh God.
We have no overlaps, and
Uh,
this is a real mishmash of like a guide through like Andrew through the ages almost,
sure.
or it's like so I have Aquaria, her
Not
story.
familiar. Okay.
Aquaria is like an underwater Metroidvania, I think.
Mhm.
Think Dirk, you worked on it. I don't remember. Her
Uh,
story, which I'm very curious about how that is like going back to it because I've seen a lot of like non strong non Sam Barlow sentiment, and I wonder if it's just like it was me right place right time, you know, and
sure.
that would be a very
Yeah, I remember
significant.
liking it at the time,
Yeah,
but
they're just I would like I wonder if like he just like the follow ups like exacerbated like some of the bad tendencies and they make them highlighted. Anyway, Monkey Island
uh,
2 special
okay.
edition. Um, oh, I think I played this game multiple times because I can see one of them is finishing the game in under 3 hours. So I very intentionally got it perfect on this.
Mhm.
Uh, Shipwreck, which is like
Hmm.
I believe it's like like a short, like kind of Zelda-ish adventure game, action adventure
Mhm.
game. This is a real the misadventures of PB Winterbottom.
Uh,
Do you know that game?
Not familiar.
It's
Sounds.
it's like a
I
real
probably get confused with another thing that has the name "The Adventures of" in it.
yeah. It's like a very specific. I feel like PB Winterbottom, like it's evocative of a very specific era of like Xbox Live Arcade indie games.
Mm.
Not technically Xbox Live indie games like that sub store that existed, but like it feels very much like it's in that Meat Boy Braid era of games.
Oh, got it.
Like you look at it and go, ah, yes, this game was made around that point in time.
This used to be among the archetypal indie game, whenever you talk
Yes,
about indie games with friends, you're like, oh yeah, like Braid. I'm like, oh no,
yes.
not
This
like Braid.
from the chat. It is very indie game the movie era. Yes, there is a
Oh man,
era that is
one of those
like,
pieces of shit. All right.
whoa,
Sorry.
hey, yeah, yeah.
Kidding, kidding, kidding.
Those
I'll
games.
tone it down.
No, you can be. I'm getting increasingly like publicly belligerent, or like I think it's fine to be. People need to learn to be critical of other people,
Uh-huh.
and people need to learn how to take it and accept that it's like,
Uh-huh.
wow, sometimes I can take criticism and not take it as an endless personal assault on my being.
Sorry, I'm sure the PB Winterbottom game is good. I just
It's
have I particularly hate Braid for many reasons, but
yeah. I mean,
um,
listen, Braid.
hopefully you don't like Braid, but
I liked it at the time. I thought it was a decent game, but listen, the stink of J Blow is permeated all over the place.
yeah.
It's of that. Yeah, it's just. Yeah, I don't know how to describe that era, but it feels like it's kind of not shallow, but also shallow.
Right. It's the kind of thing where I remember the artistic value of these games being like overhyped at the
Yeah.
time, where it's like,
Yo,
oh,
yes.
Braid's like the first game that like is like deep. I'm like,
Well,
well,
let me tell you about like the key when I was at an Indicate East, and there was like the what's the word I'm looking for? That's when you give the opening speech. Key something. Keynote. Found it.
the keynote.
Yeah.
Wait,
Yeah.
yeah.
The keynote speaker was like, it was someone from Tale of Tales, and
Hmm.
they were doing a lot talking, doing a lot of their old stuff. I'm like, wow, I forgot that like gaming is such a young medium that this like clearly like art school 101 derivative stuff is like
Uh,
the peak of gaming art.
right. With Telltale's work, that was definitely I was young enough, it was a right place, right time kind of thing, and yeah, and
And
maybe I was still.
Yeah,
like it if I revisit it, but
and I think some of it is like better than others. You know, some of it definitely hits
sure,
better, and it's like more success, like any good art. But it was a lot of it was like,
of course.
wow, hey, it's all you know the Vine where Banksy takes the guy's computer because he's at it again.
I don't.
It's McDonald's is president, as they say. Uh,
Uh,
I'll get it real quick. Banksy's at it
okay,
again
okay.
because I can I just like Vine. I always find a new way to search this, and I never remember how I found it the last time.
Uh,
Banksy's still not. There we go.
okay.
I'm going to. This is what I'm going to do a secret thing where I'm going to download this and I'm going to play it so I can play it on the stream. Anyway, it's my favorite Vine.
Ooh.
Vine is the ideal medium. It was perfect. It was beautiful.
I miss Vine. Yeah.
RAP gone too soon. TikTok is too commercial.
Yeah.
There's plenty of good TikTok stuff. People are definitely can bring their TikTok energy to Vine or the Vine energy to TikTok, but the true unmarketability of Vine really, really made it something special.
Yeah. I like individual TikToks themselves because I mean, of course, it's just video, so what is there not to like? Um, but just the whole premise of it just spoon feeding you video after video after video algorithmically
Yeah.
without your consent is not something that remotely appeals to me anymore, if it ever did. I think it's the kind of thing where, yeah, again, if I think if I were younger, I'd probably have been like, oh yeah, of course I'm going to do this, uh, be on this platform, but it was just so antithetical to what I want the internet to be.
Right.
I feel like,
There's something nice about the fact that it was so unedited, or like you couldn't really edit much, and it was difficult.
right, yeah,
I see a lot of like there's the occasional sentiment of like, oh, game devs, you guys should learn how to use TikTok, and it's like really the answer. I mean, they're gonna tell you to use every social media thing, but the real
of
answer
course.
is that you can't actually. None of that actually works because the people
Uh,
who do that have like game development is their full time job, or they even have like community managers and stuff like that.
of course, yeah. Um,
So like I
and I
like
wish somebody had told me that a long time ago,
yeah. Yeah, my general advice would be that here's general gaming advice. If you see a thread and it's like here's helpful game marketing advice, if it's coming from a community manager, just close the thread. It's not useful to you.
Sure.
You're not.
Um,
They already have like a mountain of advantages that you'll never have.
Right. And of course there's going to be survivorship bias as well,
Yeah.
with all of this stuff. And it's like, hey, this is what worked for me. It's like, you're not actually describing what you did, but you're not able to actually account for
Yeah.
the actual variables that, made your game
What do you mean I'm the best plane? I made
popular,
it back to the airstrip.
Uh-huh.
Okay, so
Right, yeah.
I'm gonna go real quick to Andrew's most important Vine. Number one, Andrew's Vine countdown. Number one Vine. I think about this all the time.
Uh-huh.
I allow it to live in my head forever.
Yeah, oh yeah, that'll fucking wake him up.
Anyway, that's the whole Vine.
Wait. It didn't actually
Oh, you missed.
play on the.
Right. Sorry, I
Hold
forgot I'm
on.
ahead of everybody.
Ah, here we go. That is really good.
I could give like a long essay about how good that Vine is. Like, there's so many
Uh,
layers to it.
sure.
It's spelt wrong. Why is he playing Green Hill Zone? You can see the YouTube video for Green Hill Zone reflected into his sunglasses.
Uh,
It's honestly, whenever 90% of the time when I see like real fucking Twitter activism, I think, yeah, McDonald's is president indeed. Did you know if you like put the latest like the latest acronym for the latest cause in your Twitter bio, it actually solves that problem?
Wait, like which?
Any one of them. If you got a problem,
Oh, sure.
too many pipelines, not enough
Oh,
pipelines, not
yeah,
enough
yeah,
food. If you put that in your Twitter bio, it actually makes the problem go away.
yeah. Okay. I
That's
should have tried that.
little
Yeah.
tips for everyone out there. You don't have to. It's not that progress is actually like this really slow, gradual thing that we may not actually see in our lifetime, but we still have to lay the foundation ourselves. Anyway,
And
the last
to
two.
be fair, I guess if you were to make an argument
Yeah,
for
yeah.
that, is that
It does increase-
normalizing certain slogans and so
Yeah.
on in bios, like,
Yeah,
it does have a role,
it
but
does, and then it also complicates because sometimes slogans get reduced to slogans, and then you forget what the point of it was in the first place, but you're very good at saying it.
right.
Anyway, this
or you
is
never understood what the point was, or
right. You say ACAB, but you got to understand that you need to put the funding. You don't understand the fundamentals of where the funding should go to prevent it. It's all very complicated, but it's very fun to say ACAB.
Sure. Oh yeah.
Indiepocalypse 23, Fright Cops or Policia. Let me break up my Brazilian Portuguese that I'm very good at saying. Which is to say, where is it? Policia do Espanto, I believe, by Manos PlayStation, the most recent addition to the Indiepocalypse family. In my I don't know, my weird quest where I commission dudes and they have to be like anarchists or communists apparently or something. I think the last dude I commissioned was, if I get my chronology right, was Our Jubilee, a game about a communist planet, or like, anyhow.
Definitely, yeah. There's definitely a type who is drawn to this project.
Yes.
Or many types, certainly.
Indiepocalypse includes many types. Many of those acronyms, many of those diversity acronyms are covered under Indiepocalypse. As it turns out, I am covered under Indiepocalypse. I myself fit into some of those. One of those, perhaps. But I've always felt uncomfortable with using them because, it just feels like this is very much personal hangups, I think, more than actual problems. Where
Sure.
it's like I feel like people will pay attention to, like, they show up for the cause but not the art, and they need to show up for the art because then eventually they'll get tired of showing up for the cause or something. Or
Right.
not everyone has to make games about what their personal experiences are. They don't have to. Their games, like, kind of sometimes feel like it pigeonholes people into, like, my games have to be about my minority experience. Once, like, what if you just make games about whatever you want to make games about,
Right. Yeah. There are so many, ways to.
Yeah. And also, I
course.
think some people are inherently like, no, thank you. More like, they see, oh, LGBT, more like, not for me. But if you don't tell them that up front, they might actually like those games and you trick them.
Right. Yeah. I guess it depends upon the
They're like, oops.
function.
They're like,
You
oops,
kinda
maybe
see
I
your
do
art.
like, maybe I am open-minded and respectful, and I just have the horrible toxicity boiled into my brain, and really there's no particular reason that I dislike these people other than being told to.
Yeah. Even though there is a point, like, I do want to make
Yeah.
a memoir game at some point, a very gay memoir game.
Well,
There's
Indiepocalypse doesn't accidentally include a lot of the games that it includes,
right. Even though I want to do that at some point, it's kind of an interesting thing where I've, used to. There's one day I was thinking to myself, like, I guess I never, like, really made a quote unquote. Well, besides, like, American Wall Runner, like, explicitly political game. But then I was, playing through all of them, or especially I think this is actually when I was coming out as trans and was, like, figuring that out the first time and started just, like, reevaluating my entire life with that lens and be like, oh, everything now makes sense. I kind of like thought originally I was like in my work that there would be a like pre and post like coming out like, oh, my
Yeah.
work from this point onwards is going to be queer than the work before, and now I'm looking through everything. It's like, oh no, it was always like super queer.
Right.
Yeah, there are always like these this like subtext to it, just like
Yeah, I have very
few
very
things with squeaky voices and lots of pink and purple here, and female pro tags, and like and just like everything is just like there's just a smidgen of gay in there.
yes.
And I hope that it serves as a Trojan horse, and in some cases it has. I've actually had a like at least like one person who's really liked Danger Zone friends, who I noticed is like, or at least used to be like fairly conservative in some surprising ways. I'm like, hopefully this game is taking up space in your brain, and it's
Yeah. I,
you know
I think people realize people don't realize that people are just people.
right.
There's just like they boil them down to their essences and not like, hey, you and I are speaking for an hour. It's somewhere between an hour and a half, but the rest, when we leave our computers and stop speaking to each other, we still have 22 and a half other hours in our lives, each of us, in which we want to interact with each other. And I think that's one of those tricky things that it's hard for people to realize that people are not the sum of the little glimpses you get of them.
Right. In many cases, yeah.
And it's like it's also I think it comes from the same kind of thinking of remembering that everything in the entire world comes from something else.
Mm-hmm.
The microphones we're sitting at. Think of all the parts of that microphone. All those
Sure.
parts were made by somebody.
Mm-hmm.
From parts that they mined from somebody else. That somebody else. It's like our most mundane bullshit is the sum totality of all this like human experience. And I don't know. It's important to remember that everything comes from something. And
Right.
your stuff doesn't come out of the ether.
Mm-hmm.
Same with video games, as you think about it. It's that same idea of like, oh, how hard is it to make a second campaign or whatever? Well, it's very hard. Because all that stuff in that video game, you had to make all those trees or whatever.
Mm.
But speaking of video games, I had 2 more.
Oh yeah, forgot about that.
And so did I
yes.
until I was like, my Steam window was still open. I'm going to give you get 2 guesses on what they could possibly be.
Shit, man. Okay, I'm trying to.
2 games that I've finished
Uh,
to completion in terms of getting all the Chivos.
okay, you have to give me some time period.
I believe that
How old are these?
they're both fairly recent. I don't know the time period. I think they're both I feel like they're definitely within unless I crumble to dust after I mention this. I feel like they're both within the same last 5 years.
Oh man, I can.
Let me see. One of them is from 2016. Phew, just dodged that bullet. It's technically over 5 years.
Oh god, I don't know. Okay. Remind me again of the rest of the
And
games.
the other
on
one's
the
from
list. Okay.
2018. So
Okay.
the other games were Aquaria, Her Story, Monkey Island, Shipwreck, and The Adventures of PB Winterbottom.
Okay. Oh
Most-
god.
Aside from like obviously Monkey Island, I think
Right.
and maybe Shipwreck. I think most of those were like played at Era. So that's not like a capsule of my taste because I probably played whenever Aquaria came out. It's probably when I played it, which was 2007.
Got it. Man, this is difficult.
Well, no, it's like literally
Is one of
a
them
random stab in the dark. I think.
okay? Is one of them? Are any of them like Telltale games by any chance?
No.
Or okay.
One of them I would say is technically an adventure game or visual novel.
Okay, okay. Oh God. Uh,
So I'm asking you. I'm testing your game knowledge, and I'm also asking you to like make a snap judgment of what you think of me as a person
oh, man.
at the same time.
Kentucky Route Zero.
Nope. I've never
The
played it. I do own it though.
uh,
I was waiting for all of the chapters to come out, and then they all came out, and then I forgot to play it.
Funny thing about that. So before I give my second guess,
Yes.
like when the first chapter of Kentucky Route Zero came out, like I was all over it, and like reasonably so. Like every time I revisited it, every time a new chapter came out, and I replayed the whole thing up to that point, I was like, wow, this is like really amazing. And I have been just like for the past 5 or more than 5 years now, but like 8 years or whatever, just been like so excited for the last chapter to come out, and then it did, and then it was just too late, you know. It's like I already played this game 4 times. I'm not, like I'm sure it's amazing,
Yeah.
and one day, like I hope before I die, I see how this like so far fantastic story ends. But um, yeah, I don't know if I ever actually will. It just doesn't sound fun to me, or like good use of time, or at all interesting. But yeah, okay, so not that. Um, jeez,
I'll give you one lesson.
really
I don't.
tough.
They don't seem like they are like. From what I remember, they seem like they're mostly things that were like with a couple like maybe hidden side things to them that are like lightly out of the way. They both seem like they're mostly like, hey, you just played the whole game.
Gotcha. Is one of them the Stanley Parable?
Nope. Also never played the Stanley Parable.
Also, that was pre 2016. That definitely came out when I was in undergrad. Yeah.
I'll give you one more
Uh,
if you can get one of them, Alex.
okay.
This is all the marbles on the table. If you can guess one of these games, I will award you here tonight a lifetime subscription to Apocalypse.
Oh wow. Well, let's get my gamer cred back. Will I no longer be a fake gamer?
No, you might still be a fake gamer. Well,
Okay.
the tribunal's still open on that.
Okay. Okay.
We're gonna talk about what you think of a certain real working class hero after this to see if you're a true gamer or not.
Uh. Wait, was that the hint or?
No, that's me
Okay.
des- devising more segments as I go along.
Ah. Okay. Um. So. You know what? My gut says Disco Elysium, even though getting
Your,
it perfect on that sounds absolutely
your gut is dead wrong.
insane.
Never played
Yeah,
Disco
of course it
Elysium.
is.
Never played it.
Uh,
I feel like there's been a point in my life where it's like after like 2018 or
uh,
somewhere past there, like my most recent game playing, excluding like Magic and
mm,
Final Fantasy 14 online,
mm,
the award-winning, etc.
yeah.
It's been like playing through my old games that I bought forever ago.
Fair.
So like I guess the last game I was currently playing was like Breath of Fire 4,
Uh,
which man, Breath of Fire is cool. It's
and
it's
yeah, go ahead.
they're perfectly fine RPGs, but all the animations are gorgeous in those games.
Mm,
Like there's so much character in them. Anyway, so the two games are The
gotcha.
Missing, uh,
Huh.
which is J.J. Macfield and the Island of Memories, and Valhalla, that cyberpunk bartender action.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Those were
Got
the
it.
last, and I'm pretty sure those are both. I think maybe I had to do a little bit extra work in Valhalla
Mm,
to unlock things, but I
because
think
there
that
are multiple endings with that one.
yeah, but it's also
Yeah.
like a visual novel, so you can like save at the right spots or whatever.
Right. Yeah, so
And,
that's easy to do. Yeah.
and get all the endings. But those were the
Mm,
last ones. Those
uh,
were. I'm sorry, Alex. This time you did not. You did not
okay.
manage to get a lifetime subscription to Indiepocalypse. I think this is maybe a new guest segment where I ask guests to answer impossible questions about my life, with the possible reward of
Uh,
lifetime subscriptions to Indiepocalypse.
Out of
What?
every possible game on Steam released in 2016 and 2018.
Yeah, that's or like even if it's just type indie games of 2016 and 2018, then you somehow have to like let me try indie game 2016 and see if that will like that will get me enter the gun. See, I don't think. Yeah, I mean, if you scroll a little, you do get Valhalla.
Okay.
But I mean, if you might be more likely to say like, Stardew Valley first.
Oh yeah.
There's a lot of things that would catch you beforehand, like Inside maybe or Super Hot.
Mm.
But anyway, I like Super Hot. I think it's a cool game.
Yeah, I remember. Yeah.
I played it in VR, which is I think the only the only VR that I liked.
Mm.
I mean, Beat Saber is fine. I've also played Beat Saber, but that's also like, I like the music. If it wasn't music that I liked, I probably wouldn't like it very much.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, I feel like with a lot of the most popular VR games that they're not things I would like to play if they weren't VR. So, yeah.
Also, like VR headsets are expensive, and they make you sign into Meta for the only one that seems anything with like the head requires you to set up pylons. I'm just like not interested.
Right.
Speaking of pylons and working class heroes, Alex, what's your opinion? Are you familiar with Mario?
I've heard of Mario.
Okay, so I'm trying to get to the. I thought everyone loved Mario. That was my understanding, was that everyone loved Mario. He was gaming's hero. He's the champion of all of our causes. But the more I do this show, the more people seem to be unaware of or disinterested even in Mario. So I need to know, Alex, where you stand on Mario.
I am strictly Mario neutral.
God.
I think for me, I did not grow up with a Nintendo console.
Yeah.
Still, I guess I had, the Game Boy. And I did have Super Mario Land 2, I guess.
Is that the one? That's the one with the overworld map.
Yeah. And
I'm a big fan of the main track for Super Mario Land, the first one. I think it might be my favorite little Mario ditty.
I'll have to listen to that. But yeah, but even though like I had a Game Boy growing up, I was just a kid of my parents, just would give me like a new game every once in a while, and
yeah,
as responsible parents maybe should. But so I didn't really I just have a whole lot of exposure to the main Nintendo franchise characters. Like every once in a while I'd go to a friend's house and they would have Smash and be like, this is amazing, and then I wouldn't get to play it again for like 2 years.
Yes, Marth. I love Marth.
But but yeah, so I just really don't have that kind of like nostalgia for the character, and I think my primary experience with him is just sort of like as a marketing like thing, like, oh, buy this thing because that's Mario on it, or like here's a new Mario game and don't you recognize this, don't you get this, and yeah, so I never so like
well, that's another.
I just don't have that kind of attachment to him.
That's another mark in the L column for poor Mario.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Mario taking all these L's, you'd think he was his taller, lankier brother, Luigi. As made famous by Charlie Day.
Mm.
Yes, okay. Sometimes I accidentally think that I screwed up his last name and I, called him by his Always Sunny last name because they have the same first name. But I didn't. I got it right that time.
Nice.
I think a lot about. I don't remember why I saw this, but there was like a. He was on Jimmy Fallon, Charlie Day, that is, not Mario or Luigi. But wouldn't it be fun if Chris Pratt and Charlie Day showed up dressed as Mario and Luigi? Wouldn't that, and they jumped around and they collected coins? That seems like a fun thing for Jimmy Fallon. I'm not sure what his whole deal is.
Seems appropriate from the few clips I've seen. Sounds like that would be a bit.
But anyway, so they were doing like this guessing game or whatever, where they would describe Jimmy Fallon would describe characters, and Charlie Day would have to guess them, like movie characters. I think they were.
Uh-huh.
And there was a thing where it's like, I think the last one that he just couldn't get was the name of the guy, like the big robot thing, I think it was from Big Hero 6.
Mm.
And he was like, it's the Big Hero, I don't know his name. It's Big Hero 6 guy.
Uh-huh.
He's like, Jimmy Fallon, utterly distraught. Like, how did you not get that? It's just so obvious. And he's like, Big Hero 6, and Charlie Day, and this is what stuck with me, like, it's not a kid's movie? And I was like, damn, dude. You just, like, for me, that kind of, like, encapsulates this weird Arrested Development culture we live in. Where it's like, I'm sure it's perfectly fine for all ages, but...
Right.
It's kind of the sanitized, like, heavily marketable to children and adults media landscape that we live in. I guess what I'm saying is I'm bullying people for watching kids' cartoons too often.
Gotcha.
But also, they need a little... Sometimes they need a wedgie, you know?
Like,
Watch a movie for adults every now and then.
Yeah, I feel like... I think for me, like, as somebody who's sort of fallen into this trap,
Yeah.
I think, of mostly... I feel like most of the fiction I'm drawn to is, like, late 90s, early 2000s children anime. So, like, just kind of the, like, rut I'm in right now.
Yeah.
I think it's just the kind of thing where, you know, I'm looking for something to watch for some reason, and I'm just kind of... I guess I'm just kind of detached from the current media landscape, so I just have the old one, you know? And I guess, like, maybe it's just the kind of thing where maybe it's just, like, kind of a phase that our generation is able to kind of has to go through for many of us, where you know, have the means to revisit your childhood in a way that was, like, maybe more difficult, you know, before. Like, if, like, okay, so, like Digimon Adventure, for example, if it weren't for the internet, then you would have to, like, find VHSs for it or something, or, like, the DVD, and those would decay, and they would be really expensive whenever. And I guess for our generation, we have this case where, for one thing, we have, like, these, like, franchises now that are more, you know, multimedia, more of a, hey, like, this brand's going to stick with you forever, like Pokemon for life kind of thing, you know? And so I think there's more of an attachment to that a lot of us are dealing with. And then we also have the means now through digital piracy to, like, actually be like, oh, I wonder if that still holds up. And, like, 75% of the time it doesn't. The 25% of the time it's like, oh, now I'm going to write a queer critique of Digimon Tamers, because there's a lot to unpack here, you know. But it should be part of course, of a well-balanced diet.
You don't...
of all sorts of media.
Yeah, you don't need to be, like, 100%. Listen, I like plenty. I enjoy plenty of all ages work myself. But you know what? It might have even, like, died out at this point. Like, it might have, like, lessened a little. But there was this. I feel like there was this real time, maybe kind of like peak and post Steven Universe, especially.
Sure.
Where it's like, wow, adults just only watch kids' cartoons.
Right. Yeah. But.
And it's like, you know what? Actually, no, it's still here because people are still like, oh, you played a villain in a TV show. That means you're bad. So, you know what? They're still here. They're still adults with zero media literacy that can't, like, live beyond the stark moralization of the children's landscape.
Sure, but I also wonder for those people if that's really something that's part of our current, like,
Yeah.
that's like unique to this time in our culture, or if those
Right.
people have always existed and it's just
And now we finally get to see them.
right, yeah. That, like, without social media, it's just kind of thing. It's like, oh, like, George has this weird opinion about that episode of Friends, like,
We always had these purity teens running wild, moralizing
uh-huh.
us.
Yeah, I mean, in different ways, yeah.
Yeah, I wonder. I wonder if there is going to be, like, if we're going to see a kind of like, if that is like the next. Are we going to go back into punk? Is that our new, like? Is that going to be like people are tired of like wholesomeness, and we're going to go back into like, no, I want to be. I can be positive, but also I can be angry about things.
I don't know. I think there was an interesting question about the extent to which our current, like, infrastructure of our media
Yeah.
landscape can support that, where, like, when it comes to, like, music itself, for example,
Yeah.
and I don't know how, I'm not, a media scholar, but could have been, almost, but didn't go to that program. But I saw, like, an interesting Twitter thread about how, the change that we've seen in music and, like, sort of the takeover of what most people would, refer to as, like, vapid pop music, and lots of, like, good, alternative and indie stuff. How that's attributed, like, kind of attributing that to, changes in national communications laws, which enabled, like,
Oh, was
Clear
that the?
Channel.
Yes, was that the
Sorry.
Clear Channel one? And why there's no alternative radio anymore?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And I remember, and even in regards to that, like, I think in an actual, like, media class in college, I
Yeah.
learned this narrative at some point. But yeah, but in any case, like, between that change and the sort of and it's really kind of hard to assess, like, how free of a medium the internet is, where you have this, like, many to many, like, anybody can make anything and distribute anything, but you also have all this, like, algorithmic stuff, and the fact that ultimately social media is the gatekeeper for all this stuff. And I just,
Yeah.
even if we have, so many of us have that impulse, to push back against wholesome content, I don't know if there's, yeah, I mean, I genuinely don't know. I'm not, like, prophesizing that
Right. No,
this is the case or not, but,
and
like,
wholesome
if
is not like a there's no issue with, listen, you're talking to a guy who 20 minutes before the show started was reading a chapter of Yotsuba,
sure, yeah.
It's
And
more
again,
like,
like,
it's more
yeah,
like the wholesome is just currently a one of the big marketing terms. And like, if we were here right now and all the indie studios were like, there was punk direct, and it's
uh,
like, wow, everything like this kind of like faux rebelliousness is the soup du
okay.
jour of the day, kind of like this kind of like, it's all pastels, and really it's just how many flavors of Harvest Moon can you stomach? And like,
Right. Okay.
I would be here asking, you think we're gonna do a switch into stuff that is just not so like vapidly rebellious? You think we're gonna make a switch to something that's more like approaches things, like, I would probably be asking the opposite question. You think we're going to get more wholesome? But currently,
Like, genuine, or,
yeah,
like marketing wholesome, or genuine wholesome,
kind of like genuine wholesome. That I would, yeah. If we were in like the marketing punk era, I'd probably be asking the inverse. If we would be moved towards more genuineness. And I mean, does wholesome genuineness come from like our huge glut of like insincerity and irony that dominated things for so long?
right. Yeah, I think it would be interesting to, especially in the context of games. I know that this is certainly a place where that
Things are.
conversation's been happening.
It's just, I mean, in the context of games, it's like a whole other issue, I think.
Sure,
Where, I mean,
but
it's just like a marketing term, and
yeah,
a lot of it
but
doesn't mean anything.
right. Um, but we just didn't chase sort of the history. I'm sure somebody's somewhere must have done this, but sort of just look at how, because there's always going to be this. Well, maybe there's often this extent to which, of course, mainstream culture emulates underground culture, and if mainstream culture becomes punk or wholesome, then the counterculture is going to take the opposite end of that. Where if we're if like overly saccharine vapid stuff is cramped on our throats, then the artists and counterculture they'll be like, we need to explore this other part of the human experience, and like also vice versa, where if I mean, I it's like in the case of games, for example, when it comes to like non-violent pastel stuff like that started as a response to like effectively like Half-Life and Doom and Quake and Call of Duty and sort of the dominance of like hyper-violence in games, and then that aesthetic then became more commercialized. It started with the indies, and then
it's one of those things where it's like, why? I mean, that's the thing I think about a lot is like, why do they all have the same aesthetic? Because there's no like reason for them to be visually similar.
Sure.
Like thematic, like there's no reason for these themes to all have this kind of like flat shaded look to them.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, in games in particular, that's what makes it come off as very empty,
Right.
Even if the people are like, actually invested in making their games, it's like they're just like, well, is this the game you want to make, or is this the game you want to make within the correct frame of what is marketable right now?
Mm-hmm.
I'm a cynical '90s kid, You can't shake it. I'm like, you can't market to me, old man. I'm a free thinker. For whatever that means. I guess what it means is that I just not as clever as I think I am. But anyway, so I'm gonna put you on record that you hate wholesome games.
No.
You're like, they're the worst. They're just like I think you said they were vapid, I believe.
No, I was referring to this particular subgenre of.
You dismissed them all as just like an empty, flat shaded reaction to violent games. No. Anyway,
How dare you?
Harvest Moon is good.
Okay, I'm going to find an example of a wholesome game that I liked. And
I'll tell you how it's actually colonial.
Okay, I'm ready. Wait. Okay, I guess my Steam library is pretty grim, isn't it? Let's try what I played on Niche.
Oh, you go to Steam, it's all like Johnny Murdernauts trip through the blood lake.
Oh man. Let's see. Okay, so if I okay. Oh man. Okay. There's some. Okay. Yeah, there are some. Yeah, unsurprisingly, it is the very gay stuff, but there is some wholesome gay stuff that I liked.
Perfect.
Yeah,
I'm wondering if now that you say that, I wonder if I just like if I played games, if wholesome existed as a concept. When I was playing games on Steam.
Sure.
And what it means. I don't. You can't get mired down in genres because none of them actually mean anything,
Mm-hmm.
So, but do you have any that aren't like, I made this in my bedroom, I'm a person?
Man, but like, yeah, like virtual multi-person team kind of
Yeah,
things.
yeah. Commercial multi-person probably gets in like directs. They would have a trailer, probably.
Uh, I mean,
Not.
I think there's like some like I guess I don't know how else to describe it, like mid-tier indie where it's, like one person and of course like a supporting team like with like, an audio director and whatever. And
Yeah, I mean, if you got people with a staff, if you have staff that you can pay,
uh,
you're at a different level already.
yeah. So like and again I don't know exactly what, the background is like. I don't know if Wonder Song is like mid-tier or like if that was all Greg Lamanov or how what the story behind the production of it
Did it take
was,
11
but
years to make?
right. I remember it being in development for a while, but um, well, regardless, it was I guess I would describe it as ultimately like genuinely wholesome, but also because it had that sort of like dark counterbalance.
Yeah,
Um, but it was like ultimately like positive and uplifting in the end. Uh, and very cute.
yeah. I think.
And I guess like Undertale is like the same way, but that's definitely more of a yeah, definitely like uh
I mean, Undertale's like
last.
two people or one guy,
Yeah,
more or less. But also, that's one of those ones that took him like what 5 years or something to make.
right. Um
But I think that is. I mean, I think you touched upon like I think something important that I kind of try to think about when I think about you know because then you're starting to veer in more in towards like I think what is sort of like a new fun buzzword, which
mhm.
is like empathy or whatever or empathetic games
uh
that kind of like sometimes people put hand in hand with wholesome, which I think the wholesome I have no issue with personally. Like that's like
sure.
it's like an aesthetic. It's fine. I get what it means. It means I go farming with animals.
Right, yeah.
But when I think you can't really misuse it because it doesn't really mean anything. But when people like, I
Mhm.
feel like when people conflate also that with empathy is when that's when it genuinely starts to bug me.
Sure. Yeah, at that point it's mm,
Because I think
I'm having trouble describing it, but
people are too people are too eager to conflate kindness with empathy, which is I
yes.
don't think they're the same thing, or like positivity with empathy. When
Right.
and I feel like empathy is more like isn't being nice to people. I think feel like it's trying to understand where other people are coming from, and it's trying to like
Right.
view them as people, not just like oh I was nice to them. I'm an
Yeah,
empathetic
and there's
person.
so many types of human experiences
Yeah,
to empathize with, of course.
I feel like a lot of empathetic works often get very dark.
Absolutely, yeah. Um, and yeah, if empathy is worthwhile, then there is going to be some darkness there, if
Yeah,
this is. Uh, but at the point where you're at that intersection there, where it's assumed that it interacts with wholesome, then you're talking about a very specific sort of subgenre
yeah,
that has some implications.
right. That's I think that's
Uh,
when people start getting upset about like it applying a value to the thing rather than just being a blanket identify like a adjective about something.
sure.
I don't like when I see wholesome used as a positive adjective. It's just a naked adjective. Unless you're saying
Right, it
I
doesn't make the
love
game better, it's just a different genre. Yeah.
yeah. It's just a different aesthetic.
Right.
It's like saying dystopia. It's like okay,
Uh,
well, that doesn't say anything about the quality of it.
yeah.
It's just the setting or the anyway. I think a lot of work that gets very bleak is often very empathetic because I think it kind of like the author is clearly like, oh, I'm trying to understand this person and trying to empathize with people who get into these like terrible situations in their life who are at their lowest
Mhm.
and want to kind of like see them be better
Mhm.
or to get better or for your life to turn out better for them. rather than I was a bird and I did skateboard tricks or whatever
Right.
because my owner was sad.
Uh,
I don't think that's empathy. But anyway, that's my hottest take. Is my hottest shit stirring take perhaps.
mhm.
But anyway, that was I think that was the one of the ones like the last time I saw an article. I feel like it was also in August.
Mhm.
But it was like these are the empathetic games, and it was like it used Skatebird as one of them, and I was like, what are you talking about?
Right.
People don't know what empathy means anymore.
Yeah, I think it's kind of the same thing. I think it's just the, like Xbox Live Arcade Braid era video games again, where people are where like the like absolutely top of the mainstream is like, oh, people are now making independent video games,
Yeah.
and the example is Braid, and it's not at all representative of the movement. It's the same thing. It's like, oh, people are making wholesome, or queer or empathetic works now, and again, it's something else that's just
It's the people who have the most money and the most connections, again,
sure,
who
right.
who have like, oh well, we're the genre definers now because we have the ability to put our games in front of other people the best,
Mhm.
which is a whole like you can't discount the
Right.
fact that hey, how do you? Well, Game Pass gets developers money, but how does the average person like? Alex, you know someone at Microsoft that you can get a game on Game Pass with, and are you going to GDC and meeting the right people?
Absolutely not.
Yeah, see, like these things are like they're mostly like I think there's probably like some edge cases here and there, but they're mostly
Uh,
like win more things,
right. Yeah, and it's the kind of thing where it's like, hey, am I ever going to find a publisher for my RPG Maker game about like
No, I'm going to tell you,
misfits who are queer and blow up a prison in the middle of it? Like,
I'm
I
going to
don't
say
think so,
I'm going to say no. I'm going to say unless I start getting a lot of money.
Uh,
Very few of these games are going to get publishers, I was talking to someone who he was saying about how he would get people who were interested in publishing his stuff, and then they would play it, and then they would be like, "Nah, no, thank you."
it's
Just
like,
kind of like it was more like they're like, "Oh yes, this probably looks really cool as a GIF or something," or like it's that very like surface level. They can see on the surface it looks weird and indie and kind of thing, that kind
sure.
of thing. But then they play it like, "No, oh wait, this is actually weird. No, thank you."
Right, yeah. Like, oh no, this is we don't know how to market this.
Right, right. We're not looking for weird games. We're looking for a game that looks kind of weird, but then it's just like a puzzle platformer.
Right. We want credit for selling high art without actually selling high art or low art or
Yeah,
but
right.
like
We
I don't think it's the right dichotomy, but you understand what I'm trying to get at.
yeah. We like your game about depression, but it's not a puzzle platformer, so we're not quite sure how to market it.
Uh,
Yeah. Anyway,
uh,
I'm sure there's plenty of good depression puzzle platformers out there. But it's kind of you still got to sell them as in the end of the day. You still got to sell them as video games.
mhm.
If they ain't a video game, it ain't for sale.
Uh,
How many people do you shoot? But the people are anxiety. Makes you think,
yeah. This is absolutely the best metaphor for exploring anxiety.
Yeah.
Definitely. Can't
Uh,
think of a better way to describe it through an interactive medium,
what if they were
except for
collectibles?
gun violence.
What if there were 100 collectibles they need to get
Uh
to
that is
power?
that definitely does strengthen it. Yes.
Yes. Alex, I have a pitch for you. It's my new shooter. It's called Whoa.
Uh
And those on the title, those letters are really far apart. And
yes. Gothic font,
yeah, they slowly come in. It's gonna be on the Game Awards. They bumped the latest Call of Duty to show my indie game to show they mean they're serious for a year and then they forget about it.
Mhm.
We're going for a while. We're gonna have to wrap this up soon, which is me just not shutting down talking to you, which means realizing that we could just keep rambling forever,
Absolutely.
But I need to keep these things to like a reasonable level, I suppose. I had the urge to, because I saw a lot of people quote tweeting a blocked account or like a muted account on my thing is my new technique on Twitter is I block people if I don't think they could possibly retweet my stuff later, and I mute them if I think there's a, that cutthroat mentality, like there is a potential that I could use them later. Then they just get muted because I'm sick of looking at them.
Oh.
So I saw a lot of people commenting on a muted account. I was like, who is this? It was Jeff Keighley, because they're talking about the Game Awards and being like, we're not going to run any trailers, but all the games are still there. And it's like, for a second there, sometimes I get very close to posting about discourse,
Sure.
But I'm like, why? Why would I do that? Because
I think. Yeah. Oh, go on.
I was reading comics more about like underground press and like punk scenes, and I'm like, thinking about like I probably should take a more active role in fostering a culture,
Sure.
But I don't
think.
I don't want to argue with people online.
Right. I don't think social media is a good place.
Yeah, I think
for that per se. I think for me, I kind of went through a similar journey where, like, if you were to like scroll through my Twitter timeline, like a few years back, you would find me like posting hot, spicy takes about contemporary issues. And I think there's a certain point where I realized that like Twitter is designed in a way to make you write bad takes. Yeah. It's like, here's an impulsive thing, in a format that is not conducive to long-form nuanced thought, and people spread ideas just based on that initial, reaction and not whether it's true or well written or whatever. And I was falling in the same trap where, like, I think almost every take that I've posted to Twitter, I regret something about it, like, the next day. I'm like, oh, that was actually kind of dumb, wasn't it?
Yeah.
But and there's no way. It's not like, for a while I was like, oh, I'll just write better takes next time. But there's no doing that on Twitter,
And Alex, let me introduce you to my good friend Bad Faith. He's got a lot of things to say.
But yeah.
And 90% of them, like this Game Awards one, which would be most of mine, are just like, why are people care? It's a commercial. It's an award show. Why are you having such a weird discourse about this?
Right, but it's because it's what's fed to us in our feeds, and that's reality, and it's what people, are, made to respond to,
And and partially because like this is a thing that I'm kind of like thinking about. It's more. It's like I don't consider myself, especially 2 years in, as being part of the games industry,
Right.
And I don't feel the need to be like, well, I need to stand up for the games industry. I need to keep my house clean. It's like, it's not my damn house.
Right, yeah.
Why do I need to, like, I empathize with workers across all mediums, across all workplaces. Like, it's not like I care about Activision more than I do about Kellogg's or Microsoft.
Exactly.
So there's no, like, I don't have that instant impulsive desire other than, like, telling people, hey, maybe you should think more about why you get paid. Or when people grumble about pay, it's like, oh, I can't believe the person who just got hired is about making as much as me. Like, that sounds like your boss's problem, not that employee's problem. My way is to not take hot takes on Twitter. It's to slowly worm I'm like worm tongue on social in real life, where I'm like, hey, don't you think it'd be better if you questioned why none of you are getting paid enough, rather than hating the person you think is getting paid too much? Because the real problem is that you're not getting paid enough.
Mm.
And like, what benefit is it to do that on Twitter? And you get into arguments with people who you mostly agree with, like 99% agree with, but maybe they didn't like a word you said.
Right.
And it
absolutely
seems kind of pointless.
Yeah, it's I think there was a time, and I think it took me some time myself to kind of reckon with this, where a lot of people talk about online discourse as though, and there's obviously an extent to which this is a form of advocacy and activism, where like, yeah, if your speech is out there and it has this message and it's reaching
Yeah.
people, then that is something, of course.
Yeah, it's more like
But
to highlight
it's the kind of
idea.
thing where I think a lot of people I would see were like kind of moralizing that, where it's like, oh, like I have a responsibility to speak out about this thing. And it's like, in general, yes, absolutely. On a specific platform, no.
Right.
There's a time and place to promote your speech. And like, yeah, if I had like 1 million followers on Twitter, then and I actually had an audience, then yes, I think it would be important for me to, you know, um, make my ethical positions more clear, but it doesn't do me any good
Yeah,
on,
you don't
yeah,
need to be the person with the viral petition tweet. You can just retweet and move on.
right. If even that, and then
Yeah.
again, I would rather be worm tongue and, you know, real world and just kind of like, well, like, and
Yeah.
just like actually, and like actually like have a reputation for being really good at talking to people about, presenting a position that they disagree with in reality and being like kind of potential like, well, I see that and that, but have you considered, or well, actually,
Right.
and people not getting mad at me about it and be like, oh yeah, okay, and just slowly influencing people in a
Yeah, I
positive
think
way.
I think very rarely do you make change with a Twitter thread, you know? But
Yeah.
but speaking to a
Um,
person like individually, you can kind of like really drill down. And that's it's kind of what I was saying. It's like, you know what? There isn't like a magic viral tweet that's suddenly going to make everyone not racist, you know?
mhm.
But like, if you tell your uncle and ask your uncle why you think those people, like, well, hey, uncle, why do you assume that those people are stealing? You know, kind of unpack that for a second. You know,
Right.
maybe your uncle will kind of reconsider their prejudices, and it's like, and we all have
Yeah.
uncles, you know.
Uh,
So everyone go out there, find your racist uncle, and be like, hey, what's your problem, man?
sure.
Get your shit together. But like in whatever technique it requires to get, listen, humans beings, the beautiful thing about us is that we can lie and be manipulative. You know, it's kind of like one of our distinct traits that animals don't have. Like most animals don't have like the multi-step thinking or whatever to do. Like my cat's not gonna lie to me. He doesn't understand the concept.
Mhm.
Anyway, it's
Yeah.
weird.
Right.
It's
I certainly
being
wouldn't like
being humans are weird, you know.
sure.
And how
Yeah.
much like we basically so much of our shit is just stuff we invented ourselves.
Uh,
But sometimes it's okay to lie if it makes your uncle a little less racist, you know?
or yeah. I mean, or I
Or
wouldn't even
to
like
tell him what
say
he
that
needs to
that's
hear.
a
To tell him what he
necessity.
needs to hear.
Yeah, I mean, tell him what he needs to do to honestly assess the world,
Yeah.
and yeah, I wouldn't, I mean, even though I would just really describe it as like influence, like I definitely do not consider myself to be a manipulative person
No,
at
no,
all,
listen.
But,
No, I've
um, I
it
can't
takes
tell a lie to save my life. My
it takes so
God.
much time and energy to be manipulative, you know.
Uh,
You have to balance so many plates constantly
uh,
before people are like, "Oh wow, this person is a liar." And then once you're a liar,
right,
you're branded.
right, yeah,
So, you know, kudos to the people who can manage that in their entire bad kudos, but
uh,
fucking live your life, dude. I think it is. I think the secret is actually not talking to the same person very often.
sure.
Anyway, we kind of went off on a weird tangent
Yeah, that
about
was
how do we even get here.
how
I blame Mario, honestly.
social
Right,
media before that, and
it was
then
the Game Awards,
New
right?
Game Awards. Ah, God, had
It's
screw the
all
Game
it's all
Awards.
I
God
think
damn it! If it weren't for them,
I feel like I made a joke about Activision and then my brain hip hopped over there.
Uh,
Anyway, who cares? Don't.
and then that's how the corporations win.
This is how the corporations win.
They sidetracked our conversation.
The secret is that
Comebacks.
I will be watching that giant video game commercial.
Uh-huh.
Instead, I will just be sitting around doing whatever I don't know when it airs.
Uh-huh.
So I will probably just be doing nothing.
Yeah.
I will probably be leveling up characters in Final Fantasy or reading a book, listening to music.
Uh-huh.
I like to see the numbers go up, folks. It's okay to let your numbers go up sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
To run
Sometimes they ain't going up in real life, and you just need them. You need to get those numbers somewhere.
Yeah. Yes.
Or even more numbers is fine too. You know.
Right. Listen,
Yeah. I feel like things are going pretty well right now, but yeah.
I have a weird. I really enjoy running through dungeons MMOs. Like, it is a very it's like my ideal game loop. I don't know why.
Okay. So going back to the first question, like that's kind of like your potato chip kind of.
Yeah, it's
thing.
like I love doing it. I love doing it in every role. I love being a tank. I love being a tank. I love just like trucking through and like. There's something satisfying about like that short-term cooperation, maybe.
Sure.
Mixed with the fact that it's like this thing that you do over and over again, so you can get like better at it, and you can like have a perfect version of it.
Yeah, that reminds me of, and this is actually like kind of like there's like some blog post somebody obscure made a while back about kind of the rule of three in games and how everything in a game is worth either doing exactly once, infinitely, or not at all. And that if a game has to do something 3 times, then it's probably not something worth doing, sort of. You know, It's like, first time's novel, second time, you repeat it, third time, it's like, okay, carry on. And it definitely sounds like that kind of loop you're describing definitely falls more into this is something like we've done more than 3 times.
Yeah, I'll do it forever. I'll do it 2 more times. I'm going to do it 2 more times after we have this talk. I need to grind out my dailies so I can get my XP.
Mm-hmm.
Get those. I didn't make all my. Didn't happy end walker to all to celebrate, you know. But it freed me, I think, in a lot of ways from WoW, which is. It feels better. Feels healthier, you know.
That's good.
The people feel chiller, I think, which is helpful. Whenever I feel myself too much and I accidentally die, I'm like, it's not the end of the world for everyone involved.
Mm-hmm.
People would be like, yeah, rip. Let's go again. Whoops.
That's nice. Yeah. Oh man. I feel like, yeah, I mean, I think that's like half the reason that I was turned away from just like online multiplayer games. I just remember, God, the fact that I still vividly remember this, just like playing Left 4 Dead in college and just, yeah, like 3 of us dying and this one guy who basically like, we more or less lost because he went off and did his own thing, but his last one surviving, and he just like in the chat was just like ranting about how the rest of us suck, and it's just like, dude, like we lost a game of Left 4 Dead, like that happens sometimes. You're playing with strangers, chill out, you know.
Yeah. I wonder if it's
just
I wonder if it's the presentation, because TF2 felt relatively chill to me.
You know what? I think you're right. Yeah, it did. I remember feeling that when I moved, like around that time, you know, in the late 2000s, early 2010s, when I more or less like switched from Halo 1 multiplayer to Team Fortress 2, me being like, the people who play this game are just nicer somehow.
Yeah, they're less invested, I think.
Yeah. I wonder if that's just like the tone of the game. I wonder like literally if they didn't have cartoon characters, you know.
Yeah, if they were still like the Team Fortress military men.
Yeah, I wonder if people would just be angstier about the whole experience. Never made that connection before, but
yeah, because there was like occasionally people would be like, listen, somebody has to be a medic, or you know.
Right, yeah.
We're eating shit here. But there's not like grumbling about perfect team comps or whatever.
Right, and if nobody does medic, then everybody understands.
Yeah.
You know?
If we want to
It's
be,
like, of course, like none of us want to do it, so that's fine. Like we understand why we lost, but
we all want to be scouts because he can double jump.
right.
He's fun. He's a shotgun. Man,
Yeah. I think it was my favorite class actually.
I have a deep affection for that game. Like,
Uh, yeah, I don't have the itch anymore, but
yeah, no,
I am feeling nostalgic about it now.
right. I think it honestly it's too big right now. I wonder if I could even get. There's just too much stuff in it now.
Yeah, I think that's the thing is that it's too different from what I remember.
But I even
And
played a little into the weapon changing stuff, and I liked a lot of them, honestly.
right, I think I liked it. I think I stopped playing when it became more than like 2 or 3 options per
Right.
slot.
Right.
At that point, it's became something less recognizable.
Yeah, because it's like, oh, I'm just going to be when it's like, oh, I'm going to use a sniper rifle or I'm going to use a bow, and those were like the two options.
Uh,
And it's like, or I'm going to be, I'm going to take out this caber, this giant sword. I'm going to run around it, guys.
right, yeah. Um,
But yeah,
exactly. And I think that I guess actually it reminds me of the second reason that I don't play online games anymore is that just because the model's changed. Where I think it's one of the reasons why I sunk so many hours into Halo when the Master Chief Collection came out. It's like, oh, good, here's something where it's just like you spawn in the map and here's the pistol and everybody has the same amount of health and shields and
yeah,
you know how it goes and get good at it and your skills are transferable from game to game. And I remember playing. I used to be into Overwatch when that started,
yeah,
and used to play with a friend. And Diva was my main, the mech lady.
yes,
And early in the game is kind of the thing where like her primary role was with her shields, and I was really good at deploying the shield, protecting my team, and then at the right moment doing a ton of damage and putting the shield up again. Like I was like super into that play style, and then some patch came along where like, oh no, this is toxic. We have to change this, and they just like nerfed the shield. It only lasted half as long and gave you a bunch of extra offensive capabilities. And it's just like, no, this character is different now. This is not the same game I was playing before.
yeah.
I'm not interested in this anymore. Why would I play this different game? I want to play Overwatch, not Overwatch 2, And I just stopped at that point. It's just like, and it also, just besides that change being kind of annoying, it just also puts this extra cost onto learning and keeping up with the game in a way that I think turns away a lot of us filthy casuals,
Yes, yes. Listen, I just want to get into. I just want to go into like 2 Fort. I want to build I want to build a little turret and dance on top of it.
Right? Yeah. No, exactly.
Until
Oh,
a guy
man.
shows up. I know
Yeah.
I know all the good turret spots, and you'll never patch them out.
Right. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. I mean, I think. Yeah. Again. Yeah. TF2. Like, if it was just like Gravel Pit 2 Fort and whatever the last one was, like, yeah, I'm into that. I know those maps inside and out, or used to,
Yeah.
like know them inside and out, and felt like I was mastering something, and now it's just like, you know,
Yeah.
it's like,
When we would play Perfect Dark when we were younger, we literally only played the facility map, no other maps,
uh,
because it's about the. Anyway, I tried to wrap it. See, this is Alex, you caught me. I did the thing where I tried to wrap up and then we just started talking a lot more
sure,
because it'll happen. But I'm trying to keep these shorter as as the listener at home knows. But I have to explain to every guest I'm not trying to cut off my conversation with them.
mhm.
I'm just trying to make a reasonable. We can't all do 11-hour podcasts,
Okay. In that case, you can ask one more question. I'll answer the question, and I will stop there. Or don't even ask the question if we really need to.
No, we're wrapping up. That's me wrapping it up.
Okay.
I'm ringing the wrap up bell.
Uh,
You can't hear it, but it's there. You
ding. I'm your sound person again.
Thank you. God, I wish I had. I think if I got a soundboard, that would be like the first evolution to this just being a different show.
Uh,
But the tricky part is I need enough people that kind of like just kind of like, you need your co-host who you need either your co-host or just like enough of a reputation that people get your vibe,
right.
so I can devolve this into just like a nonsense show,
Uh,
which it's gonna get there eventually.
mhm,
But sometimes we can break it down and have meaningful, serious conversations about Mario.
indeed.
The most intense topic we talked about today. Anyway, um, I invite everyone to. I hope one day to be quoted out of context. That would be my dream.
Uh,
Andrew Indiepocalypse says, video games are vapid waste of time. Hates all wholesome games, says Andrew. Andrew hates diversity, says local podcaster. Because, by a lot of people who don't do the research and look at any of the people who contribute to Indiepocalypse. That's my secret. That's how you truly know. That's my test. Is you're like, oh wow, no, Indiepocalypse is a diversity program. You just aren't actually playing it and looking at the authors, Anyway.
Of course, the problem being that the people who misquote you and are then branched pitchforks at you don't look
Right.
any further.
Yeah, that's in 2022, Andrew. It's my new method is I'm just going to sell out people's identities because that's what you do online.
Oh no.
I'm gonna, as a contributor, how does it feel? How would you take me personally using your identities as a way to market a game?
In what manner?
I don't know. See, that's the thing. I don't know. Do you throw around all the correct acronyms?
See, this is the why we can't market anything to save our lives.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do I start including in all the press, or I start putting like, oh look, do I have to like check everyone's identity so I can see who's marketed? And it just seems like whenever I see people do like press releases for like indie projects, it seems like it is a very like all of them have it,
Hmm.
Diversity and inclusiveness seems to be like the same bullet point that everyone copies and pastes from each other. Whatever acronyms are in vogue at the moment. However long you extend the LGBT, however many letters we're currently adding to it in the current day.
Mm-hmm.
Before we tack that plus on.
Right. Yeah. I'm tempted to talk a bit about that, but I know it'd be a whole nother conversation.
Yeah.
So
see, I'm a lazy millennial, and I just use queer because it's faster and it covers everything.
I honestly, I mean, yeah, as a transgender lesbian, I would kind of like us to just come up with an easy to say word that becomes mainstream.
Right.
And
and that's more easily transferable to other languages as well.
Right. Yeah. There's definitely, as a political science PhD student who is, obviously interested in, well, that may not obviously, but is interested in queer politics and is trying to pitch my research to people, it is kind of annoying where if I know somebody is like more mainstream, cis, het, or older, and then I use the full LGBTQ acronym, but whenever like an actual other, queer person's in the room, it's like, oh, thank God, I'm gonna just say queer. I just talk about queer theory, and nobody's going to misunderstand me. And
They're not gonna go, excuse me, isn't that a bad word? I learned from my ally class. That's a bad word.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. It's just like logistically, it seems like it's a lot easier to transfer a single word conceptually over to another language, and it's like, well, I hope you're ready to learn four to somewhere anywhere between 4 and 8 English words.
Because whenever in certain contexts, like this is an absolute, but whenever I use the full acronym, I feel like I'm just reminded of all the corporations and institutions and organizations that use the acronym in a shallow,
Yes.
just like, hey, we're good corporations, kind of way, and how shallow it actually is. And I feel like I'm evoking that, and I definitely don't want to evoke that, of course, because
I think I think you accidentally stumbled upon solving my problem for me, and I think that's the feeling I get and why I don't like to do it.
right. I think no, I mean, yeah, I mean, I think any activism needs to be done first and foremost, and or any sort of advocacy, and it needs to be done,
Yeah.
but I would rather people understand me as a feminist and an anti-racist and like as a queer advocate based on what I say and do and not that self-description, especially because so many people use these labels to apply, to basically just without actually getting any sort of introspection or whatever. There's like so many folks within the left who are racists
Oh,
and
excuse me. Didn't
misogynists
you mean
and everything.
folks?
Uh,
With the X, the
but
hard X.
but who like use labels and then get and then do terrible things to
Yeah.
people who
Right,
left their
right.
defenses down. It's like, oh, I thought you were a feminist. Like, oh no, I'm actually a huge raving asshole. I'm like, oh yeah,
Yeah, but I put feminist in bio,
right. And
True. Can I ask you? So this is a thing. Everyone stop listening so I don't get canceled. This question that I think of a lot. Why do they make folks have an X? What's gendered about the KS? I've never understood that. I get X in a lot of other situations,
sure.
but that one's always felt like it's just trying too hard to be,
Yeah, I think that okay, so I don't know about the history of this in particular. Like obviously with like Latina or Latinx,
Right,
however
or
you
X
whichever
gender.
you choose to pronounce it, or yeah, or even like the woman with a Y thing,
Yeah,
which
it all makes
has a whole
sense.
nother layer to it. Right,
But I
even
understand
regardless
it.
of the actual right, I understand where it came from and why, it came about. I assume I mean, yeah, this is all speculation, but I assume with folks it's a similar kind of thing where it's just acknowledging that, like, hey, certain people are excluded from like conceptions of the people. Where we're talking about the people, it's like it tends to be whiter than
Yeah.
reality, and that's the kind of thing where like I don't know, like, well, maybe we should just include everyone among the people. I think it's the same problem that women with a Y bumped into,
Right.
where it came from genuine effort to be like, hey, like black women and queer women aren't always included in the category women. And it's like, well, I think creating a whole separate word for it doesn't help with that,
Yeah.
Um, like maybe we just need to actually expand what women with an A means,
Right. I think at least from my personal perspective and how I view myself and things like that, where it's kind of like it's nice that there are more boxes, but I'm like, no, everything's just a spectrum. So like you're always turns out there's always going to be more and more and more and more boxes. So like the more you try, like, no, this means this and this and this, and you're like, well, there's congratulations, you added like 2 more points into the spectrum, but now there's like points between each of all of those points,
uh,
and it's
and I think we're at a time right
Yeah.
now. This is starting to actually get into some of my scholarly knowledge,
yes.
but
Now you have to start billing me for this information for this conversation.
but
Yeah, no, this
there's
is a whole other like giant thing.
okay.
that
So okay, I'm going to
can-
finish
that-
this train of thought.
Yes, finish.
then-
Pull it into the station. Let's get out of here.
And I'm going to do nothing else beyond that. Okay, where we're definitely at a moment where, and ever since, and I know about this, particularly in regards to the transgender movement, where in the past few decades we've seen a really rapid change in how the label is used, where transgender itself, when it was first widely adopted in the early '90s, was meant to be a catch-all. Like it wasn't meant to have like the specific like male to female, female to male like implication that it has today specifically, and that ultimately kind of failed. A lot of trans activists tried to lobby Congress, and Congress was like, I don't understand you people. How do I make sense of this? And then eventually, like, the word transgender actually got narrowed down to a facet of sexuality because they understood what gay people were, but
Yeah.
didn't understand trans people. And that's the only way we could dumb it down for Congress. And that had like implications, where now, like, my girlfriend's parents are, and hopefully don't listen to this, but like are sort of confused about like, oh, so like, is this like gender identity? Is that like a sexual orientation? I'm like, no. God. But I mean, it's the kind of thing where, like, I mean, how the boundaries of these identity labels and how many there are is like partially a political process. And it's messy. And it's going to stabilize, or relatively stabilize at some point, where there's going to be this expansion, and like every type of identity label is going to like effectively get vetted, and people will try it and see if it's useful, and some are going to survive that process and other ones are going to die off and be absorbed by other labels. So it's a whole thing, but yeah.
And right, it's this endless, like, as like you said, people need clear labels for, like, you need to write something down in the law, so you need a clear word that means a thing,
Right.
Yeah, and this is perfect encapsulation of, like, I think the effects of, like, why speaking as a person is infinitely more effective than Twitter, because it's, when you deal in complicated territory, you have to go, wait, even like a second after you say, go, wait, no, I phrased that poorly, or I didn't mean like that, like, or I didn't think about something right, and then it's like you can just backpedal on what you said and go, oh wait, no, that was a poor way of saying it,
Right, because like half the time that's just what it is. It's just people
you're just thinking,
using
like,
words differently,
Yeah. Or you're like, no, wait, no, I thought I was going on this line of thought, and then like this line of thought led me too far, and then anyway. I guess what we're saying is, I don't know. We're at the point where it's just you and me talking, which, like, I feel like the show's gone away. But anyway, so let's wrap this show up.
Okay.
What have you got to plug, Alex? Anything?
Okay, so I am generally showcasing again. Don't have any events coming up, but I did my first live event, recently, and so look out for more of those as those happen. I am still working on the Danger Zone Friends sequel, Starlit Jailbird Starlit Jailbird Jam. And I am, in fact, actually working on it from time to time, and it's going to be really good. And you can, when that comes out, the listener, can find all of my work on alexandra.neocities.org.
Perfect.
Or on my itch page.
Which you can get to
or
from
Alexandra Higgins.
Yeah. Which you can get to from the NeoCities page as well, I assume.
Indeed. And vice versa. Hyperlinks are really cool. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm sure also if you just search Danger Zone Friends, you probably got good SEO for that.
Apparently there's like a Counter-Strike.
Oh, yes. Is there any way to play Danger Zone with your friends? Nope. You are there.
Yeah, no.
But you're there. You're there at number 3.
Yeah.
The third result.
Nice. Cool.
And the
that's
fourth
good.
result. And the 5th result. And, you're also on Backlogged.
It's always funny when I see those. Sometimes there's actually a comment there, and
There are
sometimes
2 comments.
Just...
I'm not going to read them, the reviews. Because I wouldn't do that to you. I respect
actually,
you.
I think on Backlogged, I think they're actually okay.
Yeah, they're fine.
Yeah, no, those ones made me feel good. Yeah.
They're very polite. Got a lot of laughs.
Yeah. I think the one thing whenever I search the game that I don't look at is the Let's Play by the Sacred Lobo. He left a review on the RPGmaker.net page for it that was well, I do not think it was a particularly well written or nuanced review, and I think he is wrong. And I'm not watching his Let's Play. Uh, we'll just put it at that.
Perfect. I never heard of him, and I will forget about him in a minute.
As he should be forgotten.
Oh,
I
shit.
normally do not speak ill of specific people, but I will of this particular Sacred Lobo.
I love. I mean, frankly, I love to speak ill of both the living and the dead.
Uh,
I think we should all do it a little more often.
what
Or
I mean to
maybe-
say is that I normally do not punch towards like I mean he's just like some random guy on the
Yeah.
internet who like is not a public figure by any means, but he's also kind of an asshole. So, and I feel comfortable saying that on air,
I had someone
which is out of character for me. But
I had someone
yeah.
who didn't get into the zine and then left it a 1-star review. So
I'm sorry, but that's also kind of funny.
it is pretty funny. But what's going on here? Oh, yeeks. Bad news for you, buddy. Anyway, I'll tell Alex what I meant by that in a second. We're gonna off the air. But I'm gonna shut this train down.
Okay.
I hope to eventually get out to events in your neck of the woods one day when they have one that's like. I feel like I want to meet the people. You know, I think I've turned around on that. I want to go out. I want to see the people, see people's faces.
Absolutely.
And have my face seen.
I
feel like
I think that's important.
Yeah. It makes it adds like a reality to it. I don't think I'm going to go to Brazil anytime soon.
Right.
But I feel like.
But when you can, yeah.
Yeah, when I can, I'll head down to Brazil. It's not a giant country or anything. I'm sure all the Brazilian people who contributed to Indiepocalypse are all in the same place.
Oh yeah.
It's not a massive country or anything. But Indiepocalypse, right? Buy it. It's good. New one just came out. I think everyone's long gone at this point. But if you're still here, buy it. It's a good one. I recommend it highly. That's it. This is the end of the show. Goodbye.
Goodbye.